Your phone can be silent for 2 days, and somehow it still feels loud. The feeling matters because the body is trying to explain something important. On a weekend night, a screen full of group photos can make your room feel smaller. That tiny comparison can turn quiet into shame before you notice it. Society teaches us to count friends like proof that we are lovable, normal, and successful. The problem begins when numbers replace the quality of actual connection. So when someone has no friend group, people often rush to a cruel conclusion. Judgment moves fast because simple labels are easier than careful understanding. They imagine failure, poor social skills, sadness, or something missing inside the person. From the outside it looks like absence, inside it may be design. But solitude is not one single story. It can be pain, preference, protection, or power. That is why this story needs more nuance than a quick stereotype. To understand it, we need to start with why being excluded hurts so much. The answer begins in the body, long before personality gets involved. For most of human history, being alone was not just uncomfortable. It was dangerous. The old brain still carries that ancient rule in modern clothing. Our ancestors had no claws, no armor, and no easy way to survive without the group. Our biology remembers dependence even when our apartment has a locked door. A tribe meant food, warmth, warning, memory, and someone awake while you slept. Belonging was not decoration. It was once a survival technology. That is why the brain treats social rejection like an emergency signal. The siren can still activate even when the danger is social, not physical. Brain imaging studies show that social pain overlaps with systems involved in physical pain. This overlap helps explain why rejection feels strangely physical and urgent. So the sting of being left out is not imaginary weakness. It is old biology speaking. Instead of shaming the pain, we can listen to what it protects. For many people, the crowd still feels like safety because the ancient alarm becomes quieter there. For those people, belonging is a medicine their body recognizes immediately. But some nervous systems do not calm down in a crowd. They overload. Their nervous system reads too much input as pressure, not comfort. For them, aloneness is not the alarm. The noisy room is. Quiet becomes the place where the body finally stops bracing. This is where social energy begins to look different from person to person. This is why the same invitation can heal one person and drain another. Some people refuel through stimulation, conversation, laughter, novelty, movement, and attention. Their joy is real, but it arrives through brighter external sparks. Other people refuel through stillness, focus, reflection, reading, making, and long quiet thinking. Their joy is also real, but it arrives through depth and steadiness. The difference is not better or worse, it is a different fuel system. A mature view can respect both systems without turning either into superiority. A party can be a charging station for one person and a battery leak for another. The mismatch creates confusion when everyone assumes their battery works the same. If you leave gatherings exhausted, your body may be protecting limited attention. Exhaustion is information, not proof that you are socially broken. That does not mean you hate people. It may mean you process them deeply. Depth can make the smallest interaction feel emotionally detailed and heavy. Friendship also costs energy in ways people rarely measure. Even kind relationships require attention, timing, patience, and emotional memory. There is remembering, replying, scheduling, listening, adjusting tone, and staying emotionally available. Those tiny duties become heavy when your inner battery is already low. For sensitive people, there is also the acting fee. Smiling when the face wants rest. The mask may look polite, but the body knows it is labor. A casual hangout can require managing 5 moods, 3 expectations, and 1 invisible script. The script is invisible, yet sensitive people often feel every line. Choosing fewer friends can be a selective investment, not a social defect. This is closer to wisdom than rejection when the choice is honest. Instead of scattering attention everywhere, some people put it into one real bond or one real craft. Focused energy can become a skill, a project, or one trustworthy bond. Depth often requires saying no to the shallow pull of constant contact. Depth asks for quiet the way a seed asks for soil. Another reason solitude changes people is that it removes the public mirror. Without constant feedback, identity has to grow from a quieter place. Most of us learn who we are by watching how others react to us. This mirror can be useful, but it becomes dangerous when it owns us. If people laugh, we feel funny. If people approve, we feel valuable. That dependence can make the self feel rented instead of rooted. But when there is no crowd nearby, the question turns inward. In solitude, the mirror stops shouting and the compass begins to speak. You begin asking, what do I actually think, want, notice, and value? The questions are simple, but they can rebuild an entire identity. This can build autonomy, the ability to move without waiting for group permission. That step can feel small, yet it is psychologically enormous. You do not need a committee to decide what music you like or what future feels honest. Freedom begins when preference no longer needs a witness to be real. Self-trust grows when you survive your own silence and discover it does not swallow you. Silence becomes less frightening when it starts answering you back. But we need to be careful here. Not every solitude is free. This distinction keeps the video honest and protects people who are hurting. Sometimes having no friends is chosen. Sometimes it is a scar wearing a philosophy costume. A scar can sound confident when it is trying not to be touched. Maybe trust once became betrayal, or school taught you that people were unsafe. Old experiences can teach the brain to expect the next wound early. Maybe saying I need no one became easier than admitting you wanted someone gentle. The sentence sounds powerful, but sometimes it hides a very human longing. That kind of isolation deserves compassion, not applause and not shame. Compassion lets the wall speak before anyone tries to tear it down. A healthy solitude is a home you can leave. A fearful isolation is a cage with nice furniture. The difference is whether you can open the door when safety appears. The goal is not to force yourself into every room. The goal is choice. Choice is the line between solitude as freedom and solitude as fear. You can protect your peace without declaring every person dangerous. A boundary can have a gate. It does not need to be a fortress. You can love quiet and still allow one trustworthy person to stand near the doorway. The safest connections respect the doorway instead of kicking it open. Another hidden reason some people have no friends is empathy overload. This is one of the most misunderstood forms of social exhaustion. They are not cold, they are porous. Porous people feel what others leak, even when others deny leaking anything. A room full of people can feel like 10 radio stations playing at once. The noise is not only sound, it is mood, tension, and expectation. One person is anxious, one is performing, one is resentful, and one wants approval. To the sensitive system, every hidden emotion becomes another signal to process. The sensitive brain collects all of it even when nobody says a word. This is why silence in a room can still feel crowded. Afterward, others may feel entertained while the sensitive person feels scraped clean. The body pays for all that invisible receiving after the event ends. Pulling away becomes a nervous system reset, not an insult to humanity. Resetting is not rejection, it is maintenance for an overloaded system. This is why solitude can feel like washing the mind after too many borrowed emotions. After enough quiet, the self begins to feel clean and available again. Then there is creativity, the quiet gift that often arrives when noise leaves. This is where solitude stops being empty and starts becoming fertile. When you are not constantly reacting to people, the mind has room to wander and connect. The brain needs unclaimed space for unusual connections to find each other. Psychologists call part of this inner wandering the default mode network. The phrase is technical, but the experience is familiar to quiet thinkers. It helps stitch memory, imagination, meaning, and identity into new patterns. New ideas often come from threads that finally have time to meet. Boredom, the thing modern life avoids, can become a doorway to original thought. A bored mind can become a workshop when it is not immediately rescued. A quiet evening can become a laboratory where your future self is assembled. In that workshop, nobody applauds, but something durable can begin. This does not make lonely people automatically brilliant. Silence is only raw material. Without attention, raw quiet can still become avoidance or numbness. The magic happens when quiet becomes attention, and attention becomes practice. Practice is what turns alone time into something that changes a life. That is the private empire people rarely see: habits, ideas, standards, and self-knowledge. Most of that construction is invisible until the person suddenly seems transformed. Still, a private empire needs windows. Otherwise, it becomes a sealed room. A life with no windows can feel safe while quietly shrinking the person. Healthy solitude does not require despising connection. Connection is not the enemy. Compulsory performance is the enemy. It means you choose connection by quality, not by panic. Quality connection lets the nervous system stay honest instead of theatrical. One honest friend can nourish more than 20 relationships built on performance. Depth does not need a crowd to prove that it exists. One peaceful hour can teach more than a whole night of pretending. Pretending can fill a calendar while emptying the person inside it. So if you have no friend group right now, do not rush to call yourself broken. Shame is a poor teacher because it makes every quiet room feel guilty. Ask a more useful question. Is my aloneness giving me breath or stealing my hope? That question separates nourishing solitude from isolation that slowly hurts. If it gives you breath, honor it, build there. A quiet life can become a real foundation when it keeps you alive inside. If it steals hope, soften one wall, one message, one small risk at a time. Healing often begins with a single opening that feels small enough to survive. The goal is not to become popular. The goal is to become free. Popularity can still leave people unfree if they must abandon themselves to keep it. Free to be alone without shame and connected without losing yourself. This balance is harder than a label, but much closer to health. Because the strongest solitude is not a rejection of life. It can be a relationship with life that starts from the inside. It is the place where you learn your own shape before offering it to anyone else. Only then can connection become an offering instead of a performance. And when solitude becomes a choice instead of a sentence, it stops being emptiness. The same room that once felt empty can begin to feel chosen. It becomes a room with a lamp on, a door unlocked, and a person finally at home in themselves. That is the quiet power of being alone without being lost.